Hello, my name is Jordan Klein, and I am the host of Fireside Paranormal Podcast. If you're into ghosts, UFOs, cryptids, the unknown, then pull up a chair and join me by the fire as we hear real stories from real people. Each episode, I interview paranormal investigators, authors, experts, and legends in their field. Here at Fireside Paranormal Podcast, we have something for everyone. If you're an experienced researcher or if you're just getting into it, we have a spot for you. We're found anywhere you listen to podcasts, so grab your friends, tune in, and remember, don't be afraid, only believe.
You ever seen a ghost? Been abducted? Heard your name whispered from the other room when you're all alone? No, you say? Me either. But if you're like me, you're still fascinated by the paranormal. It seems everyone else has had an experience, and you want to believe it all. So why doesn't it happen to us? What does it all mean? How does it work? Is any of it real? Welcome to Paranormal Girl, a show that will attempt to answer these questions by taking the paranormal completely apart in search of proof. I'm not a blind believer, nor a hardened skeptic. I'm just looking for answers and willing to accept what I find. Welcome back to the Paranormal Girl Podcast. I am your host, Kristen. A couple of things to chat about right quick before we jump on into the awesome conversation I've got ready for you. First off, what in the world are you all doing this Saturday, June 11th, at 2 p.m. Central Standard? If you said, I don't know, Kristen, what is there to look forward to in these strange times? I wish, how I wish there was something fun and exciting to do at that exact time from the comfort of my own sofa. Fear not, friends, I've got you. For I am formally inviting you all to the Paratalk Podcast live-streamed event, discussion, roundtable-esque, paranormal-infused chat hosted by Paratalk Podcast's very own Reeves Cook, and, of course, I'll be there as well. This will be the first of many, I'm sure. If you are interested in joining us, head over to YouTube and subscribe to the Paratalk Podcast channel. See ya Saturday. Second piece of excitingness I want to share. I've been getting around, you guys, meeting new people, making fast friends. Suffice it to say, I'm a real social butterfly these days. I was so thrilled to be invited to have a chat with the guys over at the Middle-Aged and Creeped Out podcast. Y'all, Todd, Sean, and Nate are so freaking cool. Their show is so much fun, and like I told them when we were talking, when you're listening, it's one of those shows that makes you feel like you're just sitting in on a conversation with your friends.
Hey guys, this is Todd, Sean, and Nate, and we are from the Middle-Aged and Creeped Out podcast. We drop full episodes every Wednesday night or Thursday morning, and our middle-aged mini-episodes drop on Saturday afternoons at 3 o'clock.
And if you enjoy discussions about the paranormal, weird, unexplained, and just plain creepy, then check out our show. You can find us however you listen to your favorite podcasts. If you like what you hear, don't hesitate to give us a 5-star rating and review. Telling a friend, family member, or even a coworker about us helps the show.
And you can also find us on Facebook and Instagram by searching Middle-Aged and Creeped Out. And our TikTok is @Mako Podcast, and that's with 2 A's.
Well, Nate, what do you think?
That's the end of our promo, and that's a wrap.
Well, there you go. So until next time, creepies, Nate is your sound engineer. We are your hosts, Todd and Sean.
And they are middle-aged and creeped out. Keep it creepy.
You can catch our discussion next Wednesday, the 15th is when it will drop. Check it out and give them a little rating and review while you're at it. We all can use a little love from our listeners from time to time, and it would give them all the more reason to have me back on someday, which would be super cool. All right, settle in now. Steve Hummel was my guest this week. Some of you out there might recognize the name if you have ever watched any of the investigations done by Paranormal Quest. They've got quite the following now on YouTube, including myself, and their documentary-style episodes are all incredibly well-produced, well-researched, and thorough. I just finished the Haymond House investigation, which was really interesting, but it's going to take me some time to get through the rest because these guys have been regularly investigating for around about 10 years. I was especially interested to speak with Steve, though, in regards to his museum, which he currently runs out of West Virginia and is comprised of rooms upon rooms of haunted objects he has accrued from various investigations over the years or has been given by folks who just need to get these objects out of their possession. So we do spend some time talking all about that. Enough preamble. Please enjoy my conversation with paranormal investigator and owner of the Archive of the Afterlife Museum, Steve Hummel. I am so excited to bring on my guest today. Steve Hummel has worked as a paranormal investigator with Paranormal Quest, which is a group that has gained quite a respectable following over on YouTube, posting the investigations of their numerous cases and locations across the country. He also owns and runs the Archive of the Afterlife Museum out of West Virginia, where he collects and houses many, many haunted and possessed items. I'm sure that might come up in conversation today. Steve, welcome to the show, sir. I'm really happy to have you on.
Thank you very much. I've been looking forward to getting to do this.
Oh, same, absolutely. So I've been devouring Paranormal Quest videos this week. I know we were just talking before we started recording, and you've got a bit of life that you're tending to. So I'd love to still ask you about it and see if we can get some cool information about them, because you guys are just really cool, and I'm loving the content, loving the channel. How long have you guys been working together?
TQ's been together for probably the better part of 9 to 10 years. We all met, we all became friends while either volunteering or working at the former West Virginia State Penitentiary here in Moundsville, West Virginia. And because of that, we've developed a very strong friendship. I would probably go on more to say a brotherhood, because we're very, very close, and we do really, cherish the time that we get to spend together investigating. And unfortunately, like you said, I haven't been able to be very involved with it due to helping take care of my grandparents, my college work, having to carry 2 full-time jobs, pretty much, one with the museum and one with my art commissions. And I'm also presently working on my 4th book. So it's TQ's where in a position where 2 of us can actually work full-time producing for PQ. The YouTube page is making enough where 2 of us can basically live off that and be able to keep PQ moving forward, keeping the wheels moving forward at all times and producing one episode a week. I think that's what they're trying to keep it at, Ryan and Dave. But yeah, we've been together for a little longer than that. We all started with Dave's mom's paranormal group, Mountaineer Paranormal. She and her group used to come up to the prison and volunteer on the public investigation nights as volunteer guides, and that's how we all got to meet. I worked there. Ryan worked there. Dave volunteered there, and Jason, also a member of PQ, was friends of Holly and Dave, and he came up on a couple of their volunteer nights, and we all met him because of that. And long story short, that's where PQ started from Mountaineer Paranormal, and also, again, by meeting all at the West Virginia State Penitentiary, which is kind of funny. So whenever we do interviews and stuff at Paracons, people ask, how'd you guys meet? Where'd you guys meet? We just found we met in prison. So,
Yeah.
Which is not far from the truth. Just,
That's awesome. Wait, what were you doing at the penitentiary?
Well, originally, I was an actor in the high school high school's haunted house there. And then eventually the MEDC, that's the organization that runs the tourism there, they took over doing their own haunted house there. There's 2 years where I was working the haunted house when the high school did it. And then pretty much every Halloween after that, that the MEDC was there. So that's maybe about, because I was a tour guide, an actual tour guide there for about 14 years. So we can add about 2 years beyond it for 16 total that I've been kind of working in or around the prison. There's other 2 years being that was when the high school haunted house was there.
Okay. In all of that, because that sounds like a lot of stuff that was going on before, PQ started and officially doing
Yeah.
the paranormal investigating. Had you done any investigating before you met up with them, with Ryan and Dave and them?
We did a lot with Mountaineer Paranormal.
Okay.
Before that, I can honestly say, like I'm sure a lot of other people in the field will say, the interest was always there. I remember, for example, as a kid, like where I live, they unfortunately just tore my grade school down, which used to be a community center. But I remember being in my class, in one of my classrooms during grade school, waiting for the Scholastic Book Fair to come because I had money. I was going to buy ghost story books, Goosebumps by R.L. Stein, and so the interest in the odd and creepy was always there.
Mm-hmm.
And then I graduated into Unsolved Mysteries and Night Gallery and all that stuff, and it was pretty much the normalcy after that. So that kind of planted the interest. And then I'd say honestly, after starting at the prison, when it was the haunted house and eventually the tour guided time frame, that's when I started meeting other people who did it, and you kind of learn about it that way. I'm like, well, this is actually kind of fun and exciting and interesting. So that's when I would say it officially started, when I first started doing the haunted house there.
I got you. Okay. Well, how many investigations do you think you guys have done by this point?
Oh.
Like you just said, you do a video about a week every week, but I see some of those are part 2, part 3ers. Like how many guesstimate?
A lot.
Oh, too many.
I have trouble remembering like yesterday. When we first started, we were doing one a month. We weren't at a point where we were being able to produce them that fast until we got the hang of things, and then we decided, we really want to focus on this a lot more and put more content out. And then eventually we're doing about 2 or so a month. But the thing is, though, I can honestly say from just my perspective, my knowledge, we were doing documentary-style episodes before they were popular.
Mm-hmm.
I can honestly say, and I'm not saying this because I'm not trying to be an egotistical person about this, but I like promoting my friends. My friends put a lot of hard work into this, too.
Yeah.
We were one of the first groups using drones for B-roll shots. So, we're always trying to be ahead of the curve for quality filmmaking, but we weren't, we weren't the type where we were going to sacrifice integrity for it. So we put a lot of hard work in it because when you use, I think we use normally about 3 cameras, three recorders. So it takes all those hours to go through the material, decide what's good, what's not. And then when Ryan was editing, he was spending and still does, it spends anywhere from 80 to 120 man hours just to edit an episode.
Whoa. Oh, wow. I was going to ask you who was drawing the short stick for editing all of that.
Oh, that's what he loves to do. He went to school for cinematography at Point Park in Pittsburgh for that. That's his passion. And Dave's also really, really good with production, and that's, right down his alley as well. And I deal a lot with if there's anything demonic and stuff like that. And Jason's kind of like one of the big creative minds. He's always come up with something unique, and sometimes we think kind of out there. And when it actually comes to fruition, you're like, oh man, that makes a lot of sense. So it's there's always every person has their strong points. I think with PQ, and it's never been like people go, who's your lead investigator? Who's this lead? There's no leads.
Yeah, you guys bounce off each other really well.
Yeah, we don't promote that whole apex, the whole I'm the leader, this isn't that type of crap.
Mm-hmm.
That just promotes problems from what we've seen. Working in the prison, we've seen that pretty much every type of group you could think of, from TV down to YouTube, has come through those doors to investigate. And, they have lead investigator, lead tech, lead this, and then they come in with like 5 trunks of gear, and they spend an hour on their phone, an hour setting up, and there's only 4 of us. We don't have our own team, so we shoot all the B-roll, produce everything. We spend anywhere on an average of 10 to 12 hours on site, on location shooting, and it's pretty much down to a science now.
Yeah.
And I think that makes it a lot easier.
Okay, and I heard you say that you generally contribute the demonology stuff. Do you actually consider yourself a demonologist? I know you were an ordained minister. A lot of demonologists they do come from that aspect of it, like a theological aspect.
I'm sure some people use demonologist. I think there's a lot of titles invented by men that are all meant to mean one thing. But
yeah.
everything anymore has to be reinvented.
Yeah. Well, ultimately, it's just having a really big, kind of idea about that subject and a lot of understanding about that subject. That's what's most important about it. I mean, would you agree?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I come at it from a different angle than I think a lot of people I've met so far in the paranormal community, and a lot of them. What's nice with the paranormal community so far is, you can agree or disagree and still be really, really good friends and colleagues.
Mm-hmm.
I come from a Christian standpoint, which is somewhat rare, I feel, in the paranormal community. But, I've had some people that aren't, that they don't follow that belief structure, but, I've had them call me when they need trouble or when they've needed help with trouble. So,
mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's fine, but if and when you need help, I'm not going to say no. I'm not going to be like that. So,
it's strange because when I got into this stuff, I did not expect to meet these type, because I have met some very good friends now. They're Christian based. That's their background, and then they're also interested in the paranormal as well. And I know I wasn't expecting that coming in, but you do come across types such as yourself here and there, and it's really cool. I don't know, just kind of profound that you can be that open minded about things. Well, have you?
I feel a lot of pastors and ministers that are missing a lot of opportunities to help people with spiritual problems because they don't want to leave behind the pulpit.
Yeah.
And then you think about it, theologically speaking, historically speaking, Christ didn't always speak in the temples. He was out and about amongst the people. He was out, reaching out to them where they're struggling from, not waiting for them to come to the temple to seek help. Because some people just don't feel comfortable doing that for whatever reason, but doesn't mean you can't go and help them.
Maybe they think they have to be that strict about it, like they can't allow themselves to go there, otherwise it's going against their foundational belief. But I don't know, I'm with you on that. Like, I think they're really leaving an opportunity there on the table. Something got lost in translation there, but I'm with you.
Because one of the main things it says, if 2 or more gathered in my name, there you will find me. It doesn't say where, it just says if 2 or more are gathered in my name. It doesn't matter where it's at.
Well, I think you're coming at it from a really good point of view. Well, have you ever personally, since this is kind of your focus on the team, have you ever personally experienced or witnessed a demonic presence or an attack, anything like that?
Yeah, there's been multiple ones. I think in some cases, some of the ones that do happen, I mean, it's not like watching The Conjuring or something, but I think that a lot of times when they do happen, some folks, I think, have been so conditioned to them that when they do happen, they miss it. And that's sometimes, I feel, the beginning stages of what could be a far more worse scenario that could be ahead of them somewhere in their lifetime.
Like they're just not seeing it?
Yeah, well, we'll just say, for example, I go to the gym a lot. I lift a lot. I don't use lifting gloves. So I'm getting calluses. I have calluses on my hands that weren't there before. And those calluses don't have as much feeling in them as if I were to touch another part of my hand that doesn't have a callus. So spiritually speaking, if you're around that type of energy a lot, if you're not protecting yourself the proper way with the proper measures, then you will become spiritually callous to that, to the point where you're not sensing it anymore. It's normal to you. And that becomes a very, I feel, a very dangerous position to be in, because how do you know to keep protecting yourself if you're numb to the signs of something, negative going on in your life? Because in a way, the greatest enemy that one will ever have is one that convinces you he doesn't exist. So if you don't think your enemy's there, then you're not going to be watching out for him.
And a lot of people aren't, we're not brought up, like I know personally, I was not brought up with any kind of theological foundation, though I was brought up very open-minded to everything, the mysterious and paranormal and all of that. But I don't think I ever heard of the stages until I started research for this show. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like oppression and encroachment.
Infestation, oppression, possession.
Yeah. So if there is...
it's an interesting way to look at it. And it could be very well, a very, close and perfect way to look at it. To look at the stages, the process of what might lead into a very nasty, unfortunate situation for somebody.
Right. Well, if you do put, stock into those stages, as you're reading through them, they do get progressively worse. And you can see how somebody might be experiencing, one of the earlier stages and not be very aware that something's going on, because it can be subtle, sneaky and subtle.
Right. And then one thing that you, I, and everyone, needs to realize, that with these demonic entities, we're on their time. They're not on our time. So the whole man-made conception of time, I would probably go out on a limb to say, does not really apply to them. Someone, let's say person A and there's a person B. Person A may go through all three stages in a week. Well, person B may go through all three stages in 2 months, 2 years maybe, because of the different characteristics, the relationship they may or may not have with God and yours or whatever. There's a lot of what ifs there. Someone could zip right through the three stages and all of a sudden, oh crap, this is something really, really bad going on here. Or you can have the other person doesn't really show signs of it, like you mentioned, until later on down the road.
Okay, because you're saying that ultimately it's going to come down to the entity anyway making that decision, how long it lasts, or is it more about the faith of the person?
Not so much the making. Well, I think that that's just saying, if the person, basically what I'm saying is, if the person's not making an effort to help themselves.
Okay.
There's no guaranteed time frame of how long or how short it would take for someone to go through the three stages. Now, if someone is properly protecting themselves, then yes, a person can withstand the attacks of the demonic entity and do well in life. Now, biblically speaking, theologically speaking, there is going to be spiritual warfare daily, and that's where prayer and for oneself and prayer for others. You can pray for other people, and to keep your mind, for me at least, for me, to keep my mind as best Christ-centered and theologically correct as possible. And that's not saying going out and treating people bad and being a domineering person about it. That's just me taking care of me, because I can sit here and pray for somebody for their protection, for their spiritual betterment, and that positive prayer, or some people say, well, positive might be like a positive energy, because that's a different way of looking at it. Might actually help that person, but it still comes down to the person wanting to help themselves. We can't live someone's life for them. In my opinion, that's not the way we were created. We weren't not created to live other people's lives for them, but to be there for them and to be kind and a positive light. Because one of my favorite things that always helps me to remember that no matter how bad my day might get, someone else is always going to need, some kindness as well. And that, it always helps me out.
Well, and that
So
kind of in a weird way that brings us into smoothly into me being able to ask you all about your museum, because I kind of see what you're doing there as a service to others,
yeah,
like a good service. Now before
that's
anything
what it
is,
was intended to. Yeah.
yeah. Is this is an open to the public museum? Yes, like you can walk in.
Yes.
Okay. When and why did you start collecting haunted objects?
Well, I'd already started PQ. That was kind of, it was very, very new at the time. And at the time, I had a gym and fitness center, and next door, I had a little lunch diner set up. And in that building, there was a small room that used to be a poker room with the previous business owner, but I didn't want to do that. So it sat empty for a few weeks. And then one summer, Ryan, Dave, and I decided to go do a trip to Gettysburg. And I wanted to treat everybody. They had a meet and greet at this small, like, spiritualist museum with Alexandra Holzer, daughter of Hans Holzer. And while there, I'm looking at it, and it was a small area. It was like a little one floor of a townhouse, pretty much. And I'm thinking this could be something kind of fun for my little room that I have, because I was still doing tours at the prison. I was still doing day tours and night tours there,
Mm-hmm.
and I could add my own little creative eye to it, theme to it, or whatever. So when I got back, I budgeted myself $50, and I started collecting people's opinions on ghosts. People's opinions on what they thought, ghosts were, or why they stayed behind or whatever. And then I started printing out, typed out, framed, of course. So everything was typed out and framed. Paranormal theories, definitions, different things like that. And then I started collecting like just some creepy artwork here and there just to kind of decorate the room up. So when people would come in to get a bite to eat, I'd say, okay, we're going to work on your food. Over there is a little complimentary museum if you want to go and read, and we'll come and get you when your meal's ready. That's kind of how the museum got started.
Mm-hmm.
So it started in a little poker room on $50, and this year will be the 12th year I've had it, and it's outlasted the gym and the diner. I kind of miss my gym though, but the haunted items would just start popping up once in a while. I'd go do my day tours, come back, and my volunteer at the diner and say, "Hey, some lady dropped this doll off, said it creeped her out. She didn't want it anymore." And sometimes I'd get more of a history behind an item, and pretty soon I'm like, oh, okay, this could be a nice little additional element to the museum, haunted items. And then pretty soon I got into, I'll be up front and honest, one of the biggest people I like to follow, because I've met him. He's a super, super nice guy. It's John Zathis,
Oh,
and he's
yeah.
not seen it, but what I've seen on videos and stuff, has a tremendous, an amazing collection of haunted items and stuff like that. So I'm like, well, we kind of do like this a little bit and have some fun. And then pretty soon, like I said, it outlasted all the other jobs I had at the time. And then we had to move it to a community center here in town. There's an old Sanford Elementary where I went through all 6 grades. And we were there for about 5 years. And eventually the city decided they're going to take back over and tear it down, which was very sad. I had a lot of amazing memories there from my childhood, and got kind of sentimental about it because where I live is right across the alley from it, and my bedroom is like faces the back of the house, so I got to wake up listening to them tear it down and watch them tear it down from the beginning of my day to the end of my day when I would get in bed and go to
Oh,
sleep.
that would break my heart having to watch that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, the thing is with that school is just like every day was fun. There was,
Yeah.
from the 6 years I went there, there was never one fight. All the kids had fun. I mean, shoot, for Halloween, if the weather was fine, all the kids got to dress up, wear their costumes to school, and they did a little Halloween parade with the kids around the block, and all the people would come out on their porches and wave the kids and give out candy, and it was just a very, very fun school. And unfortunately, I think a lot of those days are going for kids nowadays, and I think it's very sad. that a lot of them don't get to have the fun that, we did when we were younger. But
Yeah, I don't know any kids
unfortunately,
personally today to ask, but yeah, I do remember my childhood being. I think you and I are about the same age, but I do remember my childhood being pretty carefree. I lived out in the middle of nowhere and just kind of playing in the creeks and catching frogs and just weird kid stuff. Just like
I
nothing.
should have been in the country. I was raised in the city, but
Oh,
wasn't a big city. All I knew is when the street lights come on at night, I better start making my way back home.
yeah, yeah. That was the universal law. Yeah, every kid knew
Oh
that.
yeah, oh yeah. Well, then my mom's a good cook, so I knew dinner was ready. So
My mom was too, but like within the realm of like 5 rotating meals, but they were amazing.
I know. Just you can't beat mom's cooking.
All right, so they unfortunately tore down where you
Yes,
were housing the museum before, and you moved it into where it's at now. It's a much bigger location, is that right?
it is a bigger location, but it's in a very much smaller town, and I don't plan on staying at this location forever.
Oh, okay.
It's just not ideal for business. But if I could take the house and pick it up and airdrop it somewhere else, it'd be ideal. It has more than enough room. It's laid out very, very nicely. It's just the town is like a half an hour away from civilization, I feel. So
Oh, so it would be like a destination type thing.
yeah, and there's nothing
People
else,
have to know you're.
and there's nothing else for people to do,
Mm-hmm.
which is not really the town's fault. It's an old coal mine town, and it's just not a big business much anymore, from what I can tell out there.
I got you. Okay. Well, what within your collection do you have possession of any very well-known objects that people might know or be familiar with?
Well, I do have a book that's been on a couple, like 2 or 3 top 10, like most haunted items on YouTube.
Ooh, what's
Uh,
that?
and I didn't even know about it. And my friend goes, "Hey, you're on a top 10 list." I'm like, "For what?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" But it's a Dr. Seuss foot book, and my friend R. Shane Berge had an investigation. Now he's moved to Texas many years back. And the lady had what she was reporting were footsteps around her house and the sound of children talking and laughing. So he went and investigated her house and asked her, "Is there anything new been brought into the house?" She said, "Yeah, these 2 items here." So he investigated with the items one on one and pretty much pinpointed that, to his best opinion, it came from the Dr. Seuss book. He asked, "Well, where did the book come from?" She said, "I got it from a yard sale." And she told him the address and so on and so forth. So he researched the address and found out that next door to said address was the scene of a quadruple homicide. And there are bloodstains on the cover of the book.
What?
So unfortunately, what happened, there was a husband and wife. They had 2 boys. I believe both of the people were from Pakistan. Both were doctors. Well, the wife was wanting a divorce because she was accusing her husband of being verbally abusive, and I would probably assume physically abusive, but that's just, my take on the matter. It tends to go hand in hand. And I don't know if she asked or just voluntarily. Her father came down from Canada for moral support, and her sister came over from California for moral support. Now her sister brought her 2-year-old Nasira with her. So they came over to spend time with the wife while the divorce process was going on. Now, after a while, friends of the wife noticed that she was missing. She'd missed a few days of work unannounced. So one of the friends or couple, I'm not sure, went over to check on her, do a wellness check, and discovered that the wife, the dad, the sister, and the sister's 2-year-old were all 4 stabbed multiple times with their throats cut. And the husband was arrested at JFK Airport. The 2 sons were with him, and they were on their way to Pakistan. So he's on death row in Ohio. I'm not sure what happened to the 2 boys.
Wow. Wow.
But we feel that the little 2-year-old is attached to the book.
Okay.
But we've also heard what we thought might have been faint adult voices too. So we're not sure, but we did hear that there was a little girl's voice.
Now, do you think, in your experience, does it always take something just massively tragic or dark or negative like that occurrence, to put an attachment onto an object?
I don't think there's a definitive answer to that. I personally don't. I personally don't. Um, does it happen a good bit? Yes. You know, that's a lot of energy, a lot of emotion being expelled onto an item or an area. So that would, I think, definitely make it very, very possible to. But I don't feel that it needs. I feel that it has to.
Okay. Okay. But that would just be, in your opinion, that's just kind of one part of it.
Yeah. That's like I think a lot of items that I find very. I kind of use these terms loosely just to kind of help me explain to guests that haven't been in the paranormal field. I use the word charged a lot, and charged meaning, at least for me, just to make it easy to again explain to people that we have found that this item has like let's say responded with from a K2 meter or a REM pod, for example, but there was no intelligent communication. It just basically showed signs of having an EMF charge to it. Now, sometimes if I use the word haunted, an item indicates, the EMF signal has been linked, or we'll just say a EMF signal has been linked to the item, but there's also been what we feel intelligent communication from the item as well. So it's like you have to have both, I feel, for like the whole title of haunted. And again, this is just to make it a little bit easier for people who have no clue, the terminology for investigating. Just kind of simplifies it for them. And then it falls into the category of items that I feel are cursed or possessed, whichever someone wants to go with. And that's just to indicate that it's a negative type of situation.
I appreciate you saying that about the charged, calling it that, because that's kind of it was a question that I had in the last season that I did, trying to decipher what I thought about, haunted or attached items. And that is a concept I didn't really go too much into, but just this idea that there's not an intelligent energy or entity, but there is an energy to it, something, it's charged. That's a really good descriptor of it.
I just feel like for some folks that aren't familiar, it's a word that's easy to know what it means.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, so you're regularly bringing in these objects. Do you, is it common for you to bless or bind the objects as they come in?
I do. I use blessings if I feel they need it. I don't use any binding techniques or anything like that. I use straight scripture, nothing else. I don't even use holy water or anything like that.
Oh, okay. Okay.
It just for me, coming from a Protestant standpoint, just for me, my opinion, I guess, anything other than scripture for me would be me considering something more powerful than the God that I worship. So therefore, for me, that would make it like an idol almost. So it's like, or if you want to bust up a cinder block, are you going to use a normal hammer or are you going to use a sledgehammer? So, like,
I got you.
don't mess around with it. Just go for the throat with it. You know what I mean? Just go for the whole thing.
Yeah.
Because okay.
Oh, I was just going to make some comment about the Warrens. That it just brings to mind, of course, with their Annabelle, in the just bound in that glass case. And I don't know personally how well I would sleep at night, not knowing that there were extra precautions.
I have a doll, and now that I moved to, it's basically a big house. Where I was at, I had 2 classrooms rented for my items, but now I have a house. I could separate things. I kind of have different themes in the rooms, and the one room that I express to people, this is an optional room, is the room that we call, I've just kind of come to call it the dark room. These are the items that come from the demonic cases, the malevolent cases, items that have been known to scratch people, harm people, different things like that. And one of the dolls in that room is a 3-foot doll, which I call the Hope doll. And we've only named her that. I went with the name, I kept it out of sarcasm because we were investigating with her one night, and this little girl's voice came across, and just from the energy itself, I know from experience that it's not a little girl. And someone asked her what her name was, and she's like, Hope. I'm like, you're full of crap. Yeah. So, but the name kind of stuck, but we've actually picked her up moving by herself on an SLS cam and a handheld night shot camera from like 4 feet away. She's scratched multiple people, pushed multiple people. She's just a nasty, nasty conduit. And I've had one lady, and I'm not saying this I'm not trying to start anything, because I've never been to the Warrens Museum. That's why I kind of mentioned this. But this one lady went to an event, or somehow, some way, she got to see the real Annabelle doll. And she said that the Hope doll bothered her more being around it than that. And I'd like to. I'm not the type, where people are like, well, my collection's this and it's better. But that's not me. In my opinion, the more people collecting these items, keeping them out of the general public, the better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I want to see the Warrens Museum really bad.
Well, Steve, do they ever bother you or try to bother you?
Being very sensitive to the sometimes I call them the vibes, the energies and stuff. It can get kind of uncomfortable. But I think that's what I tell a lot of people that. I go to a different church now, mainly because of my other church not really understanding why I do what I do, and because they don't want to listen to my motive, what I feel like I'm called to do with this. And it's because it's not the status quo. It's not the normal thing to do. But being that I've collected this stuff and having been involved with paranormal investigating, it's one of the main factors why I have a stronger prayer life now. Because being involved with this, especially the dark stuff, not promoting it, but researching it and helping people deal with it, it's made me realize that I'm not necessarily as big and bad as I wish I was. That I've actually grown to confide more in my faith in Christ and God rather than myself, because 9 times out of 10, I'm going to fail myself at something or whatever I'm doing. My body's going to fail me because I can't live forever. So I'm not going to worship myself. I'm not going to view myself like that because, I try to always keep my mind where I leave, try to keep myself founded with the Christ Foundation rather than my own. And I think having the museum, having the collection, and being able to meet the friends I have and help the people that I have, I always hope that I've helped. That's my biggest wish, is to help people. I think it's made me spiritually a stronger person than if I'd never had been involved with it.
Yeah, and and that goes back to what we were saying before, is like you're doing a service, you're doing good, you're keeping these potentially dangerous objects off the streets and out of hands. Let's say, how would you recommend just a regular person out there handle a haunted or possessed object? Is there anything that just the regular person can do if it is something that's bothering them?
Well, this being the scenario where if someone were to contact me, okay, always word it that way so people I don't want to come across preachy. So if someone were contacting me, meaning that they're confiding in my opinion, this again is another way I view things a little bit differently than some do for spiritual protection. Again, as you know, I come from a Christian standpoint with this. And in the manner of that, the person, I would tell them to focus on themselves first, focus on becoming or developing a stronger relationship with, and again, in my opinion, I'm always adding that because I always get worried when people get mad at me. Focus on a relationship with Christ, because it works for me. And when you do that, He's going to be the shield. He's going to be the protection that the person needs. So again, remember how I mentioned like the whole holy water thing, using a sledgehammer as compared to using a normal hammer. If a person accepts and follows, in this case, the Christian foundation, then it's going to become apparent at some form that they're following something way more powerful and able than what is actually scaring them, being an item. So can an item become haunted or charged, possessed? I feel yes, in a way, but I also feel that people enable that as well when they entertain the item as being, if they entertain the fear of the item as more powerful than, in my case, would be more powerful than God. Same way as if you were as I look at the holy water example. So basically by founding my spiritual foundation, my spiritual protection foundation through Christ, I know, at least from my experience in life, that is way more powerful than any evil that could be conjured up by the evil one. So in this case, for that person, when they realize that that's the light at the end of the tunnel, I feel that really can help open the door for more peace and more happiness that way, if that makes sense. I mean, in a way, it's mind over matter, basically, in a way, another little way to look at it. If, for example, if I were to say that the Hope doll I have, if I would entertain the fact that, oh, I can't even go in that room or touch that doll because, she scares me too much. I'm too frightened of her, what she might do. If I were to do that rather than cast my fears, concerns upon the foundation that Christianity has given me, that Christ has given me, then I got a lot more problems to worry about. But because I feel that, Christ has my back, and I'm not doing that nonchalantly, but, he's kept his word so far. None of us are guaranteed to physically live forever. So, praying to live forever is kind of out of the question. But spiritual protection and living a happy life while we're here, he helps. It's helped me. So I can't go against that. I wouldn't be being truthful.
No, I appreciate that, and I appreciate that you fleshed out that that answer for me. That's very clear for me. Well, yeah, I so appreciate.
But
No, it was perfect. So we are getting near the end of the episode. This one went really fast. My goodness. But we do have a couple minutes left. I was hoping I could con you into to answering some fast speed round questions for me. These are just general, kind of geared towards you in your life, but just more generalized questions for you, if you're down.
Oh, no, I'm nervous.
You're nervous. Nothing. Everybody says that. Nothing to be nervous about.
Gotcha.
All right. So what is something you have experienced or seen that you still don't quite know how to explain?
I would say I didn't quite see it, but it was a dream I had. And the only thing I could think of, it might have been sleep paralysis, maybe, I don't know. I know for certain I was asleep because I woke up. I was in my bed. And all I recall is being asleep, being unconscious, and all of a sudden I became conscious. My eyes were open, but I could not see anything. I could not feel anything. I just felt that I was suspended into nothingness. I didn't even feel wind or anything. And then all of a sudden, all my muscles, like my arms, my legs, my back, just started cramping up and contorting. And I grew very, very spiritually scared. Like I felt very oppressed in a way, like, very uncomfortable. And I remember I started to pray, but I was so just drained that I felt like I couldn't even speak. Like I couldn't even think to say what I wanted to say. And eventually I did, and I started to wake up. And I always sleep with my feet towards the wall of my bed. I sleep with my head towards the middle of the room. That's weird. But when I woke up, it was pitch black in my room, but I could sense, and I swear, I could sense that there were 3 individual beings or entities in my room with me. That eventually that feeling dissipated, and then I eventually went back to sleep. That was one thing that I kind of didn't see, but sensed. That was hard for me to explain.
Wow, what an experience. That kind of gives me chills, that feeling of kind of suspended in darkness and no control.
Like I couldn't even move my arm. Like if you watch those people in those wind tunnels or whatever, like where they're kind of like 5-6 feet off the ground, they're like mimicking maybe a free fall or something.
Yeah,
It's
like the fake skydiving tunnels.
It was like that, but there was no wind. There was nothing. It was just like the quietest night on like a winter night. Like there's nothing.
Yeah, that one would have me kind of confused too, or just not knowing what to think. Okay, next one. Have you had any locations that ended up being surprising to you, either ending up as more active than you thought or far less active than you thought going in?
Well, we'll do one of each. So that's kind of
Oh,
a
okay.
cool. You can do a one of that way.
Okay.
The one location that surprised me by not having a lot of activity would have had to been the Conjuring House in Rhode Island. But I will say it had that heavy charged feeling to it, like something was about ready to happen. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But nothing quite happened when we were there. But I would go back multiple times if given the opportunity. That place was awesome. It was so cool. Now a place that where a good bit of activity happened that I didn't anticipate. I would honestly say, just to give it a shout out to the former Sanford School, the former community center, that unfortunately was just recently torn down, that the museum used to be in,
Mm-hmm.
because it really gave a false sense of security off, because that place, we kept it spotless. Like, floor was always waxed, there was always birthday parties, people always used it. But TQ included and other groups that investigated at night, one of them, while leaving, because I still had to go through and walk doors up and stuff, the guy looked at me and said, we were wanting to investigate here because we did not anticipate what we got to here. Because it didn't, visually didn't fit the whole decrepit building look, and you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But full three-dimensional shadow figures, people being watched, footsteps in the hallways when no one else is in the... I mean, I remember a time sitting at my desk doing bookwork. My museum room's on the second floor, and I know for a fact all the doors were locked, because I would go lock and get back to my room and work. That way I didn't have to worry about kids sneaking in and running through the hallway. That was always a problem. But with all the doors locked, you can hear downstairs with, where I'm at. And I'd hear shuffling footsteps, and I'd have to get on and look and make sure no kids got in. And there's no one in there. But you always felt like you were being watched or followed in that school. And there's one of my favorite EVPs. It came through our pedal box, and it was an investigation we did there. I'll never forget it. Ryan and Dave were together, and I was with Jason downstairs. And the very first principal that school had, her name was Miss Alice Sanford. And Dave and Ryan were on the second floor at the corner, because it was just an L-shaped building. And he asked her, who all's here with us? And you hear Miss Sanford. I mean, just crystal clear Class A EVP. I mean, that place was amazing.
Like, how can you deny that type of evidence? And people would, and that's crazy confirming. Wow.
I mean, there's so many things out there that people listen to this, and all you're like,
yeah.
I don't know what you're hearing. It sounds like an exhaust pipe going off.
No, you got to go Class A. What is it called? Class A, right? That's the clearest, crispest.
Yeah, this was a beautiful EVP.
Wow.
And the fact that there was only, for my knowledge, only one teacher / principal with the last name Sanford. And the school opened in 1909, I believe. And she was the first principal there. And she was actually forced to retire. She's like in her 60s when she retired. And yeah, who's here with us tonight? And you're Miss Sanford.
Huh. And so she still ended
great.
up.
Now I'm going to start getting kind of sad now, because now it's all
coming up.
I did that to myself.
Yeah. No, that's okay. It's a totally nostalgic, nostalgic thing. It's crazy, so far removed. I'm still very nostalgic about my old grade school. A lot of memories created there. A whole life is created in those first few years too. So I get that. Yeah. All right. Well, how about one more? We'll kind of veer off the sadness here. All right.
Life is drama.
Life is indeed drama. That is the quote for this show. That's what's going on in the graphics. Who or what has been your biggest inspiration behind your involvement with the paranormal?
That's tough. I really, I started in the paranormal during a time where I really didn't know hardly anyone or watch a lot of the paranormal shows. None of my family really got into it. I mean, they never got into it. I don't know. It's a tough question. I don't want to say I did not inspire myself. I mean, the curiosity was there.
Maybe there was an unseen inspiration going on behind the scenes. Maybe,
Maybe
sometimes
it's a collection of different things. Collection of audio clips and video clips and a few words here and there by different people. I don't know. If you think of it, because we're all a product of our of everybody and everything we hear or see in life. So we're all kind of a bunch of little carbon imprints from those. How we get affected by what people say and do and whatnot.
Huh. Kind of like that. Yeah, like the cumulative, I don't know, version of everything, the collection of everything that's come before, creates you and puts you where you are. Yeah.
So it makes you really think, am I really myself or am I just a collection of everything else?
Yeah. We're going to go existential here.
All right.
Oh, well, you are just awesome. I really appreciate you doing this, Steve.
Appreciate the opportunity. It's been an honor.
Well, where would you like people to find and follow you or learn all about the archive of the Afterlife Museum or follow any of Paranormal Quest stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. Paranormal Quest can be found on YouTube, on Facebook, Instagram. My museum archive of the Afterlife, primarily any all information on it. I use the Facebook page for all of that. So for all official information, news, updates on the museum, go to Facebook.
All right, very cool. And before we close it all out, Steve, did you have any final thoughts you would like to leave with my audience?
Well, first, I want people to go and be happy and enjoy life. That'd be the best thing to do. You can't find happiness, make your happiness. Again, want to thank you for the opportunity to be on here, and hopefully I didn't make it too wordy and boring for people listening. But definitely want to thank them for taking the time out of their day to join the show.
Well, I thought it was wonderful, and I know that they will too. So just thank you once again, Steve. It's really been an honor and so much fun to have you. Thank you again so much, Steve. It was such a pleasure, sir. And listeners, I've got to give you guys a major shout out and thank you. It seems after the last episode, some of you jumped on the Kickstarter campaign train for the Tarot of the Unexplained. I like that. Ooh. And you showed up for my friend at davezilla.art. He's got about 15 days left to reach his goal, and I believe he can do it. Some of the rewards he's got up there for pledges are so cool. Downloadable wallpaper, stickers, shout-outs. But dudes, there is a pledge level where the reward literally is the deck itself. I mean, how cool is that? So, check out the link and spread the word, folks. At Paranormal Girl Pod is the handle for all of the socials. ParanormalGirlPod@gmail.com is the email for your stories of the unexplained and weird. And you is smart, funny, and really, really, really good looking. Have a fantastic week, you guys. And remember, stay safe, keep the nightlight on, and sleep with one eye open.